This is Brian Ross Investigates. Good evening and welcome. Tonight we begin with an explosive case surrounding Harvard University and a young man who was once one of its star students, now suing Harvard, claiming he was a victim of overzealous school officials who sought to crack down on sexual misconduct on campus. At Harvard University, the graduation ceremonies each year are a showcase of American success stories.
Class of 2013, hello.
Those who have already made it, like 2013 graduation speaker Oprah Winfrey.
I thank you for allowing me to be a part of the conclusion of this chapter of your lives.
And those who seem destined to make it.
Damilare Sonoiki.
In 2013, the class chose as its class day orator a Nigerian-born young man who grew up in a rough neighborhood in Houston, Damilare Sonoiki.
Sophomore year, my cousin was shot and killed. He was 22. And when I was 16, I got shot accidentally by a friend. After I left the hospital that night, after watching my mom cry, my friend's mom cry, my other friend's mom cry, you know, moms, I looked down and noticed 2 bullet holes in my shirt. These holes remind me that eventually isn't promised.
At Harvard, Sonoiki worked on the school paper, The Crimson, the famed humor magazine, The Lampoon, and he was president of the Harvard Black Men's Forum, here introducing special speaker Van Jones.
I feel like Mr. Jones really exemplifies our core principles of brotherhood, manhood, and fidelity, and we're really excited to welcome him today. Thank you.
But as Damilare Sonoiki joined his classmates to walk down the aisle and receive his diploma that day in May of 2013, with his proud mother and family looking on, he had just that morning been given some devastating news about his degree.
I got pulled aside by the resident dean. She pulled me aside and said, mine wouldn't be in the envelope because of, there was disciplinary, situation.
He could walk with his classmates, but the envelope he was to be handed would be empty. There would be no diploma inside. And now, 6.5 years later, Harvard still has not given him his degree.
Think about it. Somebody goes to a school and for 4 years studies and completes all the requirements and then finds out that they are not going to get a degree. It's unthinkable what happened to him.
According to a lawsuit Sonoiki has now filed against Harvard, the school told him just days before the graduation that 2 women he had dated or roomed with had accused him of sexual misconduct. A 3rd woman he also knew filed a similar complaint in the days after the graduation. And these were women with whom you had long-term relationships?
Yeah, 2 of them were people I had been friends with for years. And we had, become intimate at some point over the course of that. And one of them was, someone I had known for, a while.
In his lawsuit, Sonoiki says the women were pressured by Harvard to file their formal complaints. Let me ask you directly, did you rape these women?
I did not, no.
Nothing like that from your point of view?
Like that. If I did, I would probably, no, first of all, no, I didn't, categorically, but also if I were, as a Black man in Cambridge, Massachusetts, if I were raping women left and right on campus, I probably wouldn't have been chosen to speak as a Harvard orator to represent was chosen by my classmates to speak as part of graduation.
Sonoiki says Harvard at first told him they would take a few weeks to further investigate the allegations, a process that dragged on secretly for almost a year until the decision was made permanent. No degree ever.
There was no real clarity on, kind of what was going on.
A process that his lawyers, Kristina Supler and Susan Stone of the Cleveland law firm Coleman, Jackson & Kravitz, say is all too common with such cases on college campuses.
Every student, regardless of sex, should have the right to come forward and report claims of sexual violence. The issue in this case is what should the process be?
And what was the process here that you most object to?
We most object to the fact that Damilare, he was in essence shut out of the process. And this is a 21-year-old man at the time with no attorney, doesn't even know the identities of the witnesses against him, no ability to question the evidence against him, and really had to, on his own, work his way through an entirely Byzantine and convoluted process.
In fact, in 2014, 28 Harvard law professors wrote in the Boston Globe that the university's process for handling such cases lacked the most basic elements of fairness and due process, are overwhelmingly stacked against the accused, and are in no way required by Title IX law or regulation, a reference to the federal guidelines on dealing with such cases. So Sonoiki kept his secret that he had not received a degree from his family and from his new employer in New York, Goldman Sachs, where he had landed a highly coveted position in finance.
They found out from, anonymously from, I think someone called or something.
So Sonoiki had to leave his job at Goldman Sachs. His admission to Harvard Business School was withdrawn, and another high-paying job offer in finance was rescinded.
You're about to graduate, in May 2013, and then at the last second, your degree is, everything you've kind of worked for your whole life is just kind of, taken, withheld.
Instead, Sonoiki went to Hollywood, using his Harvard Lampoon connections to land a job as a writer on the ABC sitcom Blackish.
Today we're joined by Damilare Sonoiki, talented writer on the award-winning show Blackish,
where he received notice as an up-and-coming writer who overcame adversity to go to Harvard.
And you did, we have to say for the audience, make it to Harvard, so you didn't disappoint your parents when it came to that.
Sonoiki's life took on a dire turn when he was indicted and pleaded guilty to a charge of insider trading, providing stock tips to a professional football player he had befriended, something he claims he did to raise enough money to hire lawyers to sue Harvard.
It felt like a very hopeless situation, and also I was focused on trying to get, this 50,000, 100,000, however much, these lawyers.
You think it's directly related, but you made a bad decision, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. I mean, look, I take, ownership. It was very, a very bad decision. But I also think you make bad decisions when you're under a lot of, that wouldn't have happened. One thing wouldn't have happened without the other. But I take responsibility. It was very stupid. It was not a good idea at all.
But with all that behind him, Sonoiki is now focused on his lawsuit against Harvard, eager to get his degree and to challenge the process that his lawsuit says was weighted against him.
The reality is Brian Damilare never had a fighting chance to defend himself whatsoever. He was involved in a process that was essentially what some call a star chamber. So he didn't even have an opportunity to hear what was being said about him, to know whether his side of the story was being accurately represented to the panel.
And Sonoiki's lawsuit also claims that race played a factor because the ad board did not contain a black male voice.
Back when Damilare went through the process, there was not a single African male on the ad board, which is the board that decided that he should be sanctioned for the allegations that were lodged against him.
Sonoiki says he wants Harvard to finally award him the degree he earned with a 3.65 grade point average and restore the reputation he once had as one of Harvard's finest.
I think for me, it's more just like pointing out, I think, unfortunately, for better or worse, there'll always probably be a cloud. If you're accused on one of these college campuses, you're guilty. There's no real, everything else it's performance art.
Harvard declined to make anyone available to respond to Sonoiki's lawsuit, saying it does not discuss pending litigation. The university has now filed a motion to dismiss the lawsuit, calling the lawsuit meritless and detailing what it says were 3 instances of non-consensual sex. The names of the women have not been made public, but Harvard says one of them claimed to have blacked out at a party and then awoke to find Sonoiki having sexual intercourse with her. In a statement, Harvard said it is, quote, deeply committed to providing a supportive and inclusive environment for members of our community and will not tolerate sexual misconduct, including rape and other forms of sexual assault, unquote.